Hello and welcome to day 2 of the 7-day step-by-step lessons on what I would do if I was in your position, stressed out, maybe burned out, exhausted, wanted to quit my job, but I knew that I couldn't. I'm going to give you the advice that I give my private clients and that I've used myself in order to dig myself out of feelings and emotions about something that I felt like I couldn't control at the moment. So for those of you that are jumping in late, make sure you go back and watch day 1 because this is day 2. Yesterday we talked all about how we all have emotions, and it's about learning how to feel our emotions beautifully rather than repress them or express them in an instinctual way. Oftentimes, we have been taught to interpret the things that we experience in a backwards way, but when we incorporate a scientific way that corresponds to how we should be thinking and responding and all of that stuff, then we often can see that we have more power and control not only of our thoughts and our emotions about our jobs and the things that happen in our life, but we also are able to tap into exactly what we need to do to get some relief on the things that are stressing us out. So day 2, I wanted to go over it's going to be a little bit more scientific. Try to make this as short as possible. We're going to talk about thoughts, feelings, beliefs, attitudes, and experience. And if you haven't heard about this loop, I'm going to go over it rather briefly, but usually I can spend a long time talking to my clients about this. Basically, the way that we were taught to experience life is backwards. We usually have an experience in life, and based on the experience we have in life, we develop thoughts and feelings about those things, and we interpret our life more reactionary and respond based on what we're experiencing, when we actually have more control over our thoughts and feelings and what we experience than we understand. So I want to teach you that today. Thoughts are things that we just have. Sometimes they come out of the blue, what have you. We all know what thoughts are. Thoughts are meaningless unless we start to couple those with a feeling. Like maybe we have a thought about a coworker and we feel like that coworker is triggering or gets on our nerves. Or maybe we have a thought about someone on our team that is always helpful and makes us feel happy. Thoughts coupled with feelings start to imprint certain beliefs in our subconscious, whether we are aware of it or not. Usually we're unaware until you learn what you're learning today, which means that there may be something deep in your subconscious about a certain type of person that you've encountered previously, or something that triggered you previously, and maybe your coworker that you don't like reminds you of said experience. Or maybe you just have a belief that certain people are more helpful because of this, and this. Or helpful people act this way. Mean people act this way. Nice people act this way. Whatever. So you start to develop these things called beliefs or paradigms, which then shape your attitude about the things that you experience, the people you encounter, the environment that you happen to move in various areas of your life. And because of your attitude, these things then feed off of the energy that you're putting out into the world, and it helps to shape what it is that you experience in life. So that is how you have more control over what you experience than you realize. And if you trace that loop back, it is all based on thought. I know you've probably heard this before and you probably think it's BS, but it's not. If you want to start to gain control and feel better immediately, you have to learn something that you have not been taught to do, and it's to learn how to control your thoughts. Your feelings are related to the interpretation of the events that you are experiencing more than those actual events. You're not a unique case. Don't think that situation doesn't apply to you. For people, 99% of the people, feelings that you have are related to the interpretation of the things that you are experiencing more than that actual thing that you are experiencing. So, for example, I wrote an example out for you. Your feelings arise out of perceptions and judgments that you may have related to a situation or person. You may have a different perception and judgment about a situation or person than I do. So therefore, the attitude that we show up with and the experience that we have is going to be very different. So think about that example. And maybe think about a whole room of people in a meeting and how we all have these different perceptions and judgments based on our conditioning, our upbringing, what have you. Think about how each of these interactions could create a variety of responses. Your interpretation creates your emotional response. This is powerful, and if you don't understand it, you need to listen to this again. So usually this process happens automatically, and there's usually a lack of awareness on the fact that these thoughts and lead to the feelings, lead to the interpretation of the events, lead to the beliefs, lead to the attitude, lead to what you experience. That happens subconsciously, so you don't even understand that the way that you think and the way that you feel does not have to be automatic. But we've been conditioned from a young age on how to think, therefore feel, that a lot of the pain that we're experiencing, a lot of the stress that you're experiencing in your current situation, you feel as if it's a response to the situations and circumstances that you have to deal with. But really what they are linked to is the undetected interpretations of said experience. That's deep. Rewind it, listen to it. That should be a breakthrough for most of you. So here are some common maladaptive responses that I've come up with that will help you understand where you may have been conditioned to think that you are having certain feelings about something when really you're not. You're having a maladaptive response, which increases self-sabotage. It increases feelings of defeat, self-defeat, and it increases the negative feelings that you're having. Number one is called dichotomous thinking. And what that means is that you think in extremes. Maybe you're someone that thinks, oh my God, it's either all good or it's all bad, or it's all or nothing, or it's black or white, or right or wrong. And we all know that that's not how life is. And you probably know rationally that's not how life is, but the way that you've been taught to think and feel and believe and develop your attitude has been one to where when things aren't going the way that you would interpret them to be positive for you, then you lean toward dichotomous thinking almost instinctually. Or maybe you're someone that does excessive personalization and you think that someone's behavior or mood or an outcome is all because of you. Like you have more impact than you really do. Excessive personalization. Number three is overgeneralization. So you give more impact to something than it really has. So maybe one thing is going wrong at work, or it could even be 5 things are going wrong at work, but 20 things are going right at work. And you make that one thing or those 5 things seem like the most horrible thing. And like, because of that, everything is horrible. Usually everything is not horrible, but that's called overgeneralization. Filtering is when you magnify negative events, but you discount or ignore the positive ones. And this is not to discount the fact that it's not about like thinking positive and ignoring the bad things that are happening that are causing you stress and strife and burnout and all the things, but rarely is everything all bad. Another one that really trips some of us up is called emotional reasoning, and it's about confusing your emotions with the truth. Because remember, our emotions are based on our feelings and our thoughts, which are based on our interpretations and our judgments, which are different from everybody else's. So even though we think we're taking this rational process through our mental faculties and, oh yeah, that's rational, it's not always rational. And a lot of times, a lot of us, when we are going through something that is giving us feelings and emotions, we confuse those with the truth. So you may think that the stress that you feel right now is related to your job, or your burnout is related to your job, or your unhappiness is related to your job, or here's another one. If you feel like you have to prove yourself or overperform, you think there's something wrong with your job. But check this out. Let's just use that example. If you're someone that is burned out and stressed out, and you feel like you have to do all this work and overperform, and it's the job's fault, could it be, I'm not saying it is, just could it be a lack of boundaries, a fear of trusting yourself and speaking up for yourself, a lack of confidence, maladaptive trauma response, a lack of real self-care? I'm not talking about PTO and going to take a bath and having a glass of wine. I'm talking about real self-care. And that again is emotional reasoning. Questions for you to consider for day 2. Number 1, Does the intensity of your feelings match the situation that you're in right now? Number 2, what interpretations or judgments are you making about this? I want you to think about your feelings and the situation that you're in. So what interpretations or judgments are you making about these things? Number 3, what are the options you have to express said thoughts and feelings? Meaning that maybe right now you're expressing it as being stressed and being burned out and being irritable. But think about if there's 50 people experiencing the same thing, how many different emotions and responses could we all have that might be different than yours? I just want you to look at the possibilities of other feelings that may be available to you than the one that you have chosen. So this takes a little bit of imagination. So 3 was, what are the options you have to express? And then how do these options impact you and others? So if you think about the situation that you're in, and maybe you feel irritable, but somebody could feel happy, somebody could feel neutral, somebody could feel depleted. Once you have all of those possible feelings that you can think of down, then I want you to think about how do each of these options impact you or others. Number 4 is, what results are you hoping for? The situation that brought you here, the situation that's causing you stress and strife, what results are you hoping for? The 5th question is, what do you want to do now? And the 6th question and last question for video 2 is, what would happen if you did nothing? So again, this is your commitment to yourself to actually do the work, because doing the work is where the breakthroughs and answers are going to come to help you to get relief and to start to move forward and get closer to what it is that you really want to be experiencing. This is deep work. It's probably stuff that you've never heard before or been taught before. So if it is confusing, please rewind and listen to this over and over until it makes sense to you, because each lesson is going to build upon the last lesson. And I will talk to you in video number 3. Also, if you are listening to this and you have any questions for me, go ahead and just respond to the email, and I read all my own emails, so I will try to walk you through whatever it is that you have questions about.